Righty. Hello. Hi. Hello. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening. It's 11 o'clock here, which means that if you're in the Americas, well, it's either like what 3 hours earlier for some folks further west, I suppose, and then it's 3 hours later for most folks, including you, Nick. I don't know what to call you actually. I've just
Nick is good. For
Nick is
most
good.
say people, Mykola is pretty hard.
What is so Mykola?
Mykola. This is a sound that English doesn't have, and that makes people
Uh,
make faces when they try to say it.
So you changed your name because people like me suck at pronunciation.
It's
That's the
pretty.
saddest thing I've ever heard, my friend. I'm really sorry. Oh, that's sad. That's so sad. Well, okay. It's really nice to meet you again.
Nice meeting you
I don't
too.
know. I'm just calling you that the genius behind the Webtau stuff. So I don't know. But you got some friends. Look at that. Some people have joined us today. We got Simon in the mix. God, I love that guy. He's everywhere. We got Victor. Hi, Victor. We got Slawomir. Remember what I just said about the pronunciation? That's a thing. Okay, I really am not that good at the pronunciation. So just scrub back like 3 seconds. Hi, Arun. How you doing? Hello. Hi from Syria. Oh, good to see you. Hello. Hello from Stockholm. Hello. Welcome. Thanks for hanging out. Good stuff. So we got some people in the mix. And by the way, if you're in like Sweden, what is that? 9 hours, 10 hours? I mean, it's 9 hours at least further on. So that means that people are joining us solidly in their Friday evenings. It's pretty good. They must be they must know what we've got in store, which is we're going to talk about your project. And I confess I didn't really know much about it. And then it's Jonathan. Oh, by the way, okay, we've got a few other folks. Look at that. Hi, Sanjeev. Hello, welcome. Thank you for hanging out. We got hello, and then we've got Raja. Hello, welcome, and then Jonathan Schneider, like longtime friend, but also Open Rewrite and Modern, and lots of really great stuff in that ecosystem as well. So okay, we've got so anyway, they know what I think I know finally, thanks to you. You've been chasing me, I think, literally all summer. To just I mean, it's my fault. It was just been one mishap after another. So thank you for that. And then finally, I got to see what this is all about. I said, oh, that's really cool. We should tell people about it. So here we are. Thank you.
Now, I don't know how you want me to start. I can start with a simple introduction
Yes.
of how I got to do testing tools. So my profession is not about testing tools or related to testing. I mostly work on financial fintech, like pretty much financial organization that needs software engineers. And since I left Ukraine, joined Goldman Sachs in Singapore, then I moved to States within the Goldman Sachs, joined to Sigma, joined Citadel Securities. Now I'm in a new company. I don't want to say its name yet, but in all of those companies, there was a common problem, and you can guess it is, testing was not always something people are passionate about. And so there will be a lot of holes, and there will be a lot of complexities, and some of the tools will not be up to the challenge. So it'll be like a verbosity, or maybe hard to analyze errors.
Yep.
And over time, I was collecting those patterns and building some of the APIs. And in the last couple of places, I was actually putting it into private GitHub repos. And eventually we open source bits of it. And, I open source bits of it in one company, join another company, and start using those bits, adding more to it. And, over time, project matured enough.
Like an open source snowball.
Yeah, project matured enough I think that it can benefit not just fintech. It can, in all honesty, there is nothing specific to fintech. Just in fintech, there are more complex domains, more complex assertions, more involved systems in your end-to-end tests.
And this is, by the way, I think something that sometimes I wish more people would hear, because I know what you're saying. I completely agree. And I sometimes hear people, I live in the Bay Area, San Francisco, and people here seem to have this impression that their software is the only software that matters in the world. And I'm just like, it's it's not even the most complex. What are you talking about? Like, it's not the most innovative or complex that I know of. I mean, I've seen some things in New York and in London and Singapore and Hong Kong and the financial services sort of capitals of the world that will make people's brain explode just thinking about it, right? They don't, and then people over here, you got cat picture websites. It's just not the same, I agree with you.
Cool. So yeah, over time there was open source. Now, one of the reasons I was reaching to you is, I want users not to be just my fintech colleagues,
right?
Or my friends. I want other people to experience and maybe like, oh wow, I can't figure out how I was living without it. And next project or next test I'm writing, I'm definitely going to use Webtau. Or maybe I'll just like, oh man, it's just such a waste. But either way, I wanted to be exposed to more people. And one of the reasons I was chasing you successfully over time. But we got to this stream.
Yeah, we did it. Go team. Well, I mean, you did 90% of the work, but I feel like I pushed the button, so that was kind of important. Good stuff. So okay, this testing technology, like we've got JUnit. So what else am I missing, right? Like I guess I'm trying to figure out, help us understand where this fits in.
So JUnit is perfectly fine, but JUnit in this case, like Webtau works with JUnit, it doesn't replace JUnit. It leverages JUnit as a runner, and it doesn't have to be JUnit. It could be anything. It could be TestNG, it could be public static void main. But what Webtau gives on top is a lot of utilities, concise ways of a certain complex domain, getting nice reports generated out of it. And one of the most important things for my project is it lets you test across multiple layers, not just your business logic. So you can test your business logic with Webtau, but you can go and test your REST API level, your database level, your command line, interface level, WebSockets, all of those things by themselves, by separately, or all combined. And I think one of the powers of Webtau is when you combine all those layers, it still feels natural. You don't take 7 different tools and try to merge their reports. You don't have to learn 7 different APIs for matchers. And there are some other cross-cutting concerns like persona for authorization testing and some other things that just work across the layers. And so you can go and write your classic business logic unit test, but then you can expand and start writing end-to-end API test. But then you can expand more and add web UI test or maybe command line tool test. And what one of my last projects, what we ended up doing is actually combining some of them together. The users, the researchers, the quantitative researchers, they would use most of the time command line tools to do something. And we needed to test that command line tools work perfectly. And one of the scenarios we needed to test is, will that command line tool provide enough error messages and context in certain edge conditions? How do you set those edge conditions, right? How do you, do stuff like that? And then if command line displays a certain error to a user, to a quant researcher, if they go to a website, what they will going to see? Are they going to see the same or are they going to see inconsistent? And so basically, the complex suite of tests that if you look at it, it's like, oh my God, I'm not ever going to write to it. If you look at it written using Webtau APIs, that will be pretty easy to follow and modify.
Right. Okay. I think we need to see this. Because when I hear this, I think it's the forgive me. This is the thing. I saw what you're going to show us, and so that's. I want to tell people. To me, it seemed like it was worth this buildup. But just listening to the buildup right now, it sounds like you've cured cancer, and obviously, it sounds a little.
Yeah. That's fair.
You kind of have to see that there's this nice unified sort of approach, and what I loved is not even just the APIs. It's sort of the stuff you built around it, the tools.
Yeah. How about, I mentioned to you yesterday, I have maybe like 8 to 10 minutes short slides to get a taste of it before we go into live demo and screw it.
Okay, as long as we can ask questions, we can turn 8 minutes of short slides to 2 hours if we try. Come on, team. Let's go.
Yeah. What do I press to share?
Oh, do present, and then I think it'll show up down there in the bottom, and I can add it to the screen. Do you have the present button?
Yeah.
And then in the meantime, okay, there we go. Now we're cooking. In the meantime, chat, if you got questions, if we We are craftspeople whose work runs on the JVM. Yes, that's true. How different is it from Spock? That's a good question. And there's actually a bit of a groovy component to it as well. So, we'll let Nick get to that.
Yeah,
Sure.
well, let's go through the slides, and then maybe the slides will answer some of the questions.
Good questions. Keep them coming. We'll queue them up.
Yeah, queue them up is good for now. Do you see my screen?
I do. Yeah, I think
Cool.
all of us. Hopefully,
I was expecting some orange border like this. The Zoom is doing.
Sorry.
So I'm gonna, and just for maybe extra information benefit, I'm gonna turn this blog post into slides that's using another open source project that maybe we can talk in next year if you want. But I'm gonna turn this content into slides automatically and talk through them. And later, if you want, you can just go and read the same in your own pace. To get the introduction into Webtau, I'm gonna cover a typical use case for myself is doing some business logic and maybe some REST API logic on top of it. And to be on the same page, we're going to talk about the game store. So I don't want to talk about finance or medicine. It's going to be about a game store. We can go and buy some computer games or PlayStation games and maybe get some extra discounts. And we will be implementing a checkout discount logic. So the idea is if you buy multiple games, and if you buy them of different types and they're distinct types and, to up to 3 games, we want to get a, 10% discount. So all these rules come from the business and we want to implement those rules. At this point, we don't care how to display in the UI, command line, whatnot. We just want to make sure our logic works. And so given the table example of our checkout cart, there are 2 games that cost more than $15, one of the rules, and they're distinct types, RPG and action. So these 2 games combined, we're going to get a 10% discount.
Oof.
And so let's try to implement it. Discount calculator gets a list of games, and then we will filter price out, make sure the distinct types are there. We will limit at 3 distinct types, and then each game will give us 10%. So in previous slide, I made a mistake. It's going to be 20% discount. So how do we write a test for something like this? Remember, it receives a list of games. So the question is how many games we're going to put inside. 1 game seems like not enough. 2 games also doesn't hit every if else logic hidden inside the streams. And so we need a large amount of games to hit each of these conditions for business rule. Count only 1 game per type, high enough price, 3 distinct types. So it feels like at least 4 games needs to be in the list to make sure we hit all of them. And let's take a look at how you typically do this preparation, write this boilerplate code to write a unit test. You'll create 1 game, 2nd game, 3rd game, and then you're like, oh man, I'm tired, 3 is enough. Or maybe you'll stop at 2. And it's not enough. So what's the actual problem here is the 2 problems. One is copy pasting and not updating values. Happens all the time because you're just like, oh my God, I need to make it fast. And second is I'm alluding to multiple times is you're not creating enough instances of these Java bins. And so one of the things that Webtau helps is not just assertions. It helps with, which we will take a look at soon, but it also helps with data preparation. And one of the things Webtau provides, and it's somewhat related to Spark, is the concept of a table. The table here, unlike Spark, is an actual instance of actual class. There is no compile time magic. This is a table class. Think of it as array list on steroids, like a list of maps or something like that. And then we define create games method for our testing utilities because we're going to use it across the project. And this method receives a table of data. And then we're going to cover a few things here, like cell GUIDs. There are more cell dot things here, but cell GUID will generate unique stuff for each ID column here. And then we'll make sure that, we specify enough types here. And also some like extra types to stop us here. So basically, because creating a Java bin here is 1 line, it's easier for us to create 4, 5, 6, 7. Right? We don't want to go and do 100, but it's much easier to create 4 here than in previous case. And then using our create games method, we're going to get a list of games, pass it to our calculator that we're testing business logic, and make an assertion that the final discount, or discount we're expecting is 30. So let's quickly take a look at the create games. As I mentioned, it's a table data, like list of maps. You can row stream on this. Again, going back to Spark question, it is an actual value, an actual class. So you can do operations like streaming, filtering, mapping, and other stuff. And then for each row in the table data, we're going to call a create game. Why is it important to create a game, to have a method to create game? Is because in our test, we are free to define as little or as many columns as we need to prove a business logic point. We don't need to specify all the 55 fields for a game. We can default for things like title. If title does not affect the price, we don't specify the title. If we don't specify the title, the row get will give you an empty string in this case, and we can make a decision to default to some meaningful value here. We did the data preparation. Let's take a look at another point of this is data validation. What if we write in a recommendation engine and you get a list of all these games, and then it will tell you what is the next game you need to play. Just like you don't want to spend your brain resources, just like, hey, give me a next game to play. And it tells you based on your game library. So in this case, we will leverage the create library as we did before, but this time we will specify title because it's important for our test. We will pass this library to the game recommendation engine. And this time we're going to make an assertion. We make an assertion now on the entire Java bin that is returned from a next method. And yeah, so engine.recommend next game is our next game. And like I'll go back, I'll get more into details, but just want to note that we are asserting a map against the bin against the map. And then as the values, we don't have to use the specific values. We can use other matchers that Webtau has. And you can keep chaining stuff if you have nested bins. And you can use things like greater than, less than, and other half a dozen different matchers. So one of the things that I think Webtau is doing good is telling you what it's doing at all times. Like if you're writing an assertion, if you're using some utility methods, helper methods, or other like data preparation stuff, it will tell you, hey, I'm doing this and I failed, or I'm doing this and it passed. In this case, it says, I'm expecting the next game to equal what you want me to equal, but there is a problem. You expected the next game type to be sport, but it's actually RPG. And so you don't scratch your brain and you don't go and add a bunch of print statements. Here's the context for you, or what I believe the actual game is that you gave me. This is the pretty print representation of it. And take a look at this RPG. This is where the problem is. And this is your typical Webtau output for your assertions. Now, that was just one Java bin. And I want to now test the method that's in our game store website, business logic, that gives you a top N games that you played based on your hours playing those games. One more test we're writing, we're still leveraging the create library to get us some inputs. Now, one new thing we're doing here is trace all games. I'm going to show you what it looks like. It's basically like, hey, I'm still writing this complex test. I want to debug something first. Let's show it to me.
It's worth pointing out here. When I see this, I get a little anxiety about what happens when somebody does what is it, Command Alt F or Control?
Yeah, it's a fair anxiety.
There's a way to disable the formatter though. You can do / add formatter :off, I think.
I'll give you a sad story on this. While I was working at Goldman Sachs a long time back in Singapore, and we had like a Webtau 0.1. It wasn't called Webtau, but it had a table concept.
Yeah.
Only for Groovy specific DSL, not Java. But at that time, we had a plugin for IntelliJ IDEA to do auto formatting and do stuff like that when it recognizes a table. I lost all the code. It wasn't open source at that time. And I'm struggling to replicate it because I'm not good at writing plugins for IntelliJ IDEA.
Right.
But using the multi-cursor selection helps for me personally. And I usually stop at like 3, 4, 5 rows. And then I multi-select the whole column and just like space. And Might take like 20 seconds to realign.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, we get a question here, by the way.
Yeah.
If I use its Groovy flavor, will I be able to run the tests on VS Code? That's a good question.
It's a very good question, because I don't know if I did the PRs for initial stuff or not, but I am working on VS Code plugin to step back. Webtau is an API, Java and Groovy API, but it's also Webtau has a runner that is completely agnostic to all the JUnits. Is for people who like to write tests and they don't necessarily use Java daily. For example, one of the cases in my previous company was we were writing Go server, like we're using Golang to write servers and deploy them for Google Cloud, but we were using Webtau command line and Webtau Groovy runner, or like Groovy style, to write all the end-to-end tests so that we can just run them from any terminal window without compiling anything.
Nice.
And yes, and for that very reason, I wanted VS Code to understand the special keywords and have those run button on top of the method names.
That's awesome. I mean, it's just it's one thing to provide a nice set of extensions. And by the way, the answer to my original question is that's still just JUnit, but everything in between the stuff in the test itself is nicer, you know. But then what I love about what you're doing here is it's sort of this holistic. It's not just an API; it's a bunch of stuff around, you know, viewing and understanding and analyzing and working with your tests. I just love that focus. You're focusing on the tooling. You're focusing on readability and traceability. It's just really good.
Thank you. So let's now call the find top and games and pass it 2. So we expect 2 games. And this is where the other side of this medal, data preparation and data validation. We are now going to use the table we used earlier, but as an expectation. On the left side, there is a list of 2 Java beans, so maybe more. On the right side is expectation saying we expect 2. We don't care about the order, hence the asterisk in front of ID. Like order doesn't matter this time. And we only care about these 4 or 5 columns. So if your Java bean has 25 properties, we only care about these 5. And let's run an assertions. What do I put here? Yeah, same as previously. You can use matchers inside the table cells like you were inside the map. So price USD, we say we don't care what the price is, less than 60. We're gonna run this assertion, actual top 2 games, give it an alias top 2, so we see it in the report. That is completely optional, should equal expected. And let's get back to our tracing. Whenever you call tracing on anything, it will gonna try to pretty print the values as it understands them. And this time it prints all the 4 rows we had in our game library. You probably already see like, oh, there's price USD null, maybe that's the problem. Or maybe you're just exploring, like one of the way I'm using tracing is I go to one of my older projects and I forgot the shape of things. And I say like, generate me something XYZ, and I'll just trace it and I'll see pretty printed list of things with JSONs inside or JSON-like representation. It says like, oh, okay, yeah, now I remember the shape and the taste of it and I can write more tests to it. And now we're expecting top 2 equal all the information provided for us. The failures, like it did before, expected less than 60 and 60, but they are both nulls. And as before, but this time it will print it as an actual table. I'll say, like, yeah, you did have 2 things in your list, 2 Java beans, but their price USD is null, and let me highlight them for you. All right, yeah, and using tracing is optional. But it's basically, instead of you going and doing like print statement, println, system out, println, 2-string, going like crazy, redefining 2-string methods just for the debugging purposes, you can use trace and see everything you need. Now, I showed you how I use the Webtau to validate complex things, but let's go back to how you would normally do if you use vanilla JUnit. Right, you will get find top end games and get the first game and go property by property twice. Maybe doing copy paste again, maybe just getting like, you know what? And that's something you've seen. I'm 100% sure you've seen it. I've seen it so many times. Well, like, you know what? Just expect top 2 game size to equal 2, because I'm bored writing all of these assertions. And then your test will pass. It just the garbage is inside. And just to contrast and compare, this is where you focus on the data specifically, and you should less likely feel inclined to skip the value, so not add a test that returns 3 or 4 or something. All right, so I covered the business logic, and just I don't know if it's a common term or not, common terminology, but I stopped using end-to-end integration test and more like, and all those flavors of that, and more like, here's a business logic, here's an infrastructure logic, and maybe there is something in between. But I call what we were doing previously is a business logic test, and then like saying a pure unit test, it means you can cross 6, 7, whatever, 8 classes as long as your business logic is contained inside. It just makes it simpler for me to argue with myself. Should I make a smaller test or larger test? It's like, no, this is what business asked for. If I express it in 3 classes versus 7 classes, it doesn't change what business asked. It doesn't change the rules. And so let me just focus on testing those rules. All right, but let's go to REST API. Let's go forward to REST API response or testing. And same game store, but this time we want to return something as a REST endpoint from a Spring Boot app, let's say, and make sure that, at least roughly, we're not going to do all the permutation, but at least that data is coming in when the data is inside. We're going to use 2 more concepts here. One is a DB module from Webtau, and one is a HTTP module from Webtau. They're all optional. You don't have to use them. You can depend on them independently using Maven dependencies, or you can depend on them all at once for convenience. So this test starts with me declaring a game database table. Nothing happens at this point. It's just a lazy declaration. My test starts with clearing this table, inserting literal table in a table, and Webtau will take care of using the camel case conversion to underscore conversion. And this is done for convenience, so you can use the same tables on both sides of insertion and data preparation. Then I'm going to just, for the sake of testing my trace method or showing you trace method use cases, I'm going to trace the DB query. I'm just going to take all the data that is available inside the database and display it. And so finally,
who is this, a SQL table, or can it? What about a Cassandra or?
This is JDBC, anything JDBC compliant.
Which is the 80% case, but I'm just wondering.
Yeah, at least, what needed for my use cases, but yes, it was Postgres and MySQL and some other stuff, but it was all covered by the same DB. And finally, we make an HTTP call. And HTTP call, you specify URL and some other things, and then you have an opportunity to provide your validation closure, or like a function that will receive header and a body. And then using both or either header and body, you can make assertions, whether it's a very specific sniper-like assertions, first element in the list type value, or it's more like a broad bulk validation like we did before. I know this response is a list, and I want to make sure that there are 2 items in that list. They're matched by ID, so order is not important, and I'm only interested in title. I'm just doing like a sanity check if those records are even set or not. And as before, everything you do in Webtau is being pre-printed for you. From the, hey, I'm creating a database source, to I'm inserting 2 rows, to here's what the data look like in the database. I'm executing HTTP. I'm on your behalf, kind sir or madam, I'm doing the status code validation for you because it's a get method, unless you provide your own. If you provide your own, then I'm going to ignore my default one. And then the response for you, and I'm highlighting everything in that response that you touched, and everything that you haven't touched. You can see the FPS type on the second game, and price USD, we never looked at it. The Webtau knows about it. And I mentioned it to Josh last time, is there is a concept of data coverage in Webtau. And when you run all your tests, Webtau will analyze all the responses it saw for specific routes. And it will tell you, hey, this specific route, you never touched the price USD. Please go and add at least a single test that looks at the price USD is not null, and save yourself some headache in the future. And you just saw the reporting on the console. Let me show you that what Webtau produces additionally. If you choose to use Webtau notation on top of JUnit, or if you choose to use a Groovy runner, both of them will produce the same HTML self-contained report. What I mean by self-contained is it's a single, sorry, go on.
Elden Ring.
Where is it? Oh yeah, Elden Ring. Look at the hours played. I think it's pretty good.
Oh, I've got a lot more than that, and I'm not proud. Somebody asks, is it possible to join tables?
as in it is possible to run any custom query for both data modification and data query.
Okay. And then somebody else asks, Sanjeev asks, is it possible to, is it compatible with code coverage tools?
Oh yeah, I mean it's still JUnit. There is Webtau doesn't do anything JUnit doesn't do already. Like JUnit runs stuff, and if your code coverage is working with JUnit, Webtau is not gonna affect that working stuff. In the case of Groovy Runner, since it's testing your application as a black box, unless you run your application in a coverage recording mode, Webtau doesn't have any chance to do anything with it.
That's so cool.
But I wouldn't rely on the cloud coverage for end-to-end tests, because a single test would exercise more likely more than 50% of your code without validating 50% of your code. And that's why Webtau introduced the concept of data coverage, because data coverage is something actionable. It's, hey, you have all these schemas, all these data, but nobody looked at them. It is more valuable in case of end-to-end testing than here, these lines of code never looked, nobody exercised. Because why I'm saying it's more important, because then you go to web UI and you get all those nonce and undefined and other things that are easily spottable by data coverage concept.
Well thought out, as always, it seems.
Right. And so the report will only be generated if you use Webtau annotation for JUnit. And this report has a lot of stuff. And oh, sorry, I forgot to finish the self-contained. So self-contained is very important for multiple use cases. Self-contained means it's a single HTML file. You can Slack it around. You can put it on S3 or anything, just a single file. You can email it to if your filters allow it. And then just open in your browser, and then everything will be contained inside. It's a gzipped blob of base64 inside, and on the opening, it archives. And that becomes like a mini app with full navigation support. And some of the things that are very important for, for some of the use cases we had at previous companies is to make sure that we have enough evidence of what fields we looked at during the responses. So if someone comes back, regulations are similar and says like, hey, show us the evidence of you validating those REST APIs that you make globally available to your customers. And this is the proof. You put this report on your GitHub Actions or in your Jenkins somewhere artifacts. You click in it, you navigate to any endpoint, to any test that had HTTP calls, drill down to HTTP calls, and see all the fields that were touched by this particular test. And so, yeah, there is more. And I didn't show you, maybe we'll show it now with Josh, but there's like a REPL mode, coverage responses, open API, performance browser. There are a lot of things there. Don't be scared, because you don't have to use any of those. You can just use Webtau core from Maven and enjoy your unit testing improved capabilities, or you can use any of these modules by themselves or all combined, as I mentioned before. So yeah, I think after this, at least in my presentation, I asked someone to go to GitHub and start Webtau, but that never worked. Maybe it will work this time. So this was introduction. After that, we can zoom into any of those or try to do something pair programming with Josh.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. 1 second. Okay, so you want to write like a sample app? Oh, by the way, we got a question here. When I proxy things, can I provide a JSON file with mock data?
Yes.
Nice. Okay, very cool.
More than that, I think it's not very well documented, but you can, one of the use cases, you can wait for a proxy server to respond. So imagine you have a command line tool that does something to the server, and then you want a synchronization point to continue your test. And that synchronization point could be command line spits something out, put some stuff on the output. But if it doesn't, you can feed a proxy server to that command line tool. So that tool talks to your server, and then you can say, wait for this server to respond, or wait for this server to receive a request, and then continue your test. So there are like all these cool synchronization things you can do instead of saying sleep for 10 seconds and just do those random bad stuff.
Good answer.
What you're not doing now, and I'm not sure how to switch. If I switch to the view where I see you, then I also see myself and this screen sharing, and it's like this mirror effect.
So, okay, so let's go to my screen, and I'm just hoping you'll walk me through the absolute basics here. I feel like there's no way we can cover everything, but let's say we build a very simple app with Spring. Imagine me writing something in Spring.
Hard to imagine, but let's try.
Yeah. Okay, so imagine we'll write something with Spring, and let's suppose, just hypothetically, that we have some sort of SQL database and an HTTP endpoint. I would love to see what that looks like. So let's see, entire screen. Okay. Oh goodness, look at that! I am not doing great at the old keyboard here. Okay, so okay. So we want JDBC, we want Postgres, we want test containers, we want
this is good.
There we want web. I don't think there's anything to worry about here for that. Okay, so beautiful Webtau. Yeah, okay, good. JDBC. Oh, like I've got the JDBC. I can use Spring Data JDBC. Let's see if that buys us something. Spring Data JDBC generate. Oh, Webtau.
So do you wanna use Maven tool or like JUnit, or you wanna use a Webtau?
Well, I start from my code first usually.
Yeah,
so
let's go first.
What about Gradle?
Yeah, Gradle should be good.
But I need to build an application, and here my critics will charge. I could have prepared this off screen and saved the audience a hot few minutes, and that's a good point. That's a really good point. I should have done that.
I like how you attack yourself, so that nobody then have an opportunity to attack you.
Exactly. Well, I didn't even. Okay, that doesn't sound great. Yes, I attack myself. But this also does give me a chance to ask about test containers. Are there any interesting interactions there, or should I just treat it like another SQL database?
For now, I think you can treat it as another sequence database. And I do, in my own tests, in the Webtau test of Webtau, I do use test containers to make sure a specific combination work.
It's okay. It's okay. Okay, so we're gonna do this then. We'll just do this, and we'll say add container and static Postgres SQL database db equal to and it'll be.
While you type in, there is one integration with test containers, like a proper integration is for Selenium browsers.
Yeah.
You might just in your config says, I want to use a browser from test containers equals true, and here you go. You have it in your build on a continuous server.
Okay. Hold on. Let me see. Wait strategy. I feel like there's there you go. New host port wait strategy. Let's try that one. Okay. Does that look right? That kind of feels right. Something's wrong though. Generic container.
I have a hunch that there is a static method on PostgreSQL container.
Okay, yeah, it's probably better. There you go, default.
Oh, I might be wrong.
Oh, it's okay. Let's see, we're so close. This is a This gives me what? This gives me a generic container. That's what I need. Generic. Okay. I don't know why it's unhappy, but it doesn't matter. It's because I didn't do try with resources. Okay, so let's see if that works. Okay, that's the first thing. So we got test containers. I can do at service connection. Okay. So I'll tell Spring Boot to automatically use that test container.
Oh my God, I love your viewers, because in this, whatever last half an hour plus,
Oh,
I
great.
got three stars. That's so good. Thank you very much.
I love my viewers too. This is a good project, though. Believe me, they don't give out stars for nothing.
Yeah, they will ask you to reimburse them.
I don't. I can sell it, but they don't have to buy. There we go. So there's this, and then class customer HTTP controller private file customer repository.
It almost looks like you're using that code assist AI one, but it's just using IntelliJ.
Yep, isn't it amazing?
Yep.
IntelliJ, I love it. Okay, so some data here, source test sources. Okay, want some schema.sql. Pretty simple stuff. And we put that.
I'm surprised you're not relying on auto schema creation.
Well, I'm not using JPA, so I could. There's actually, I think, a new feature that'll do it, but it's fine. Enter into customer name values, and let's just see who we can. Who we've got on the chat here? Sanjeev. Parts. Simon. Arun. And there we go. That's a few names, and of course, we've got Victor. Okay, so those are names. Let's see. I don't know if that. How do we? So we want to. This would be sample data that's inserted when the application starts up. So SQL init mode equals true always. Okay. Well, okay, so let's test. So so now we've got a test. We've got a SQL database. I guess the thing I would do is I would first start with, I just want to make sure things are basically as they should be. So I would just inject this into the constructor and in Spring. And this is not, this has nothing to do with Webtau yet, right? I'm just trying to do like a select all customer, right? New role mapper. Actually, I could have just injected the repository, right? Get ID.
Yeah.
ID, all right, so I get string name. But I'm trying to stick close to the data. Our data.
You can actually inject the repository and then use Webtau trace method to look at your data.
Okay, so size greater than 0. Okay. The way around. We have an assert method in Spring Framework, and it's for business logic. And the precondition goes first, and the message second, and the other way around. Okay, so let's just make sure this basic thing is sane. If this works, then we should see test containers spin up. Here. Yeah, it created one. Spring Boot should have found it. Got a Postgres, got a JDBC URL. Spring Boot connected. Okay, looks like it's fine. So we can prove the negative, of course, by doing that. And you say that there's a better way to do that. I want to see that. And there is a better way, having all that auditability, all that traceability. Okay, good. So the tests are basically sane. So now let's improve these. Improve it. Like this is just a dumb test. We don't actually need it. What do we do now?
Show me how the dependency looks like. I want to see if you depend on the entirety of Webtau or a specific module.
I have nothing yet. We have just an empty build.gradle.
So let's add it. Can you go to documentation and see if you can get the coordinates from there?
Testing is documenting. Hell yes, reach it.
Oh my God. Yeah, click on the link. I noticed a failed build there. And
Ah.
on the left side, look for the installation.
Installation. Okay.
Skip the Groovy runner. Go to JUnit 5.
Okay. JUnit 5. Oh, you've got a nice copy button.
Yep.
And then we'll go back here and we'll do a little life hack.
Yeah, I saw that tweet of yours, or short video. I forgot, but yeah.
It's such a somebody had to build it. I'm sure it took him like 20 minutes, whatever. Some genius at JetBrains team.
And now let's copy this line and replace JUnit 5 with nothing, and that would be like a
wait. Oh, this?
Yeah, like duplicate this, because this is a specific dependency for JUnit annotation for reporting. And if we leave it like this, it's going to be all of the Webtau. If you do -db or -browser or -http, those got to be specific to a module. But we still need JUnit if we want to eventually. If we want a JUnit integration to generate reports, we will need that.
Okay, downloading the internet. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. Waiting. No pressure. Suggested plugin, test automation available. There's a plugin? Is this yours?
No. I think it's someone from JetBrains at the early stage of Webtau made it recognize Webtau classes, so the CSS for the Chrome, for the CSS for the browser selectors, autocompletes.
Yeah.
If it actually works or not at this point.
Cool. Testing is important, people. Let's see. So, okay, we've got this.
Now, I like that it's orange. So confusing. Why is it orange?
Vulnerability. Bouncy castle.
All right. I'm officially embarrassed. I'm using Josh technique. I'm attacking myself. So bad that I didn't fix them.
Okay. Now, well, go back here, I guess. So now, let's make this a little bit more.
Let's do it.
Example. But first of all, how do I test the... Do you do outside in or inside out? Do you start with a web tier or do you start with a database?
Oh, I think I start both. I go business logic and REST API. And then if there are complex cases, I use database inside in the middle.
So HTTP customers endpoint all customers, something like that, right? Okay. But now, what's the
let's do one simple thing is somewhere in the documentation, I suggest to have one static import for everything Webtau, so you don't have to deal with class completions and things like that. You can copy it from, if you switch to Java tab, slightly higher.
Cool. Oh, okay.
And I copy that Webtau DSL thingy. That pretty much gonna expose all this HTTP dot, DB dot, matchers, trace methods, and things like that. And here you can start typing http.get.
Oh, wow. I thought this was a variable in your slides, but it's actually a static thing. That's neat. Okay. But, okay. So does it have a base URL? How do I specify?
Good question. You do http get first.
Okay.
So want to see it fail. You can go full URL. You can go relative URL for now. It's going to fail, but we're gonna improve it.
Okay.
Yeah, and you don't need to do anything after that. Just leave it like this.
Then do what? Just run it?
Just run it. Let's just do one step at a time.
I'm scared. But there's no Spring Boot. Does it know how to start up the Spring Boot context? I mean, well, no, wait.
Your JUnit needs to know.
Yeah, okay. It does. Hooray. Believe it or not,
you can use Webtau outside of JUnit. It's just a bunch of API method calls.
Right.
No test found. Okay, that's on you, Josh.
Wait, is it the wrong test annotation?
Yeah, I think you're using JUnit 4. What's something is happening?
Okay.
All right, that is expected, right? It's like, hey, what is the schema? So we do need to set base URL. Now you have two choices here. One is to use a config object and directly update the base URL on it. Another one is you can use the webtau.properties file and specify URL there. But since you're using the Spring Boot setup that generates random ports and stuff, right? You probably will be better fitted if you'd use the Java code to set the base URL.
Okay, so how do I do that? Is it before each?
I think before all is good enough.
Okay.
And I will be honest with you, I never do this in the code because most of my end-to-end tests are Groovy runners that runs outside of regular code build. And at that point, I know the port I'm running my server on. Actually, I take it back. My test itself would run a server and know the port of it.
Right. Okay. Well, I can do that, right? So I can say properties server port equals 880. Now I know the port.
Yeah. Let's do simple one first. So in your before all, you start typing get CFG, like get config.
Ooh.
And say set base URL or set URL.
It feels very Pythonic somehow. Okay.
We have like outstanding feature someone was requesting from previous company to make more like a Java DSL for setting the configs. But since my use cases are mostly Groovy, I wasn't. Let's see if that actually was run, that set URL thing.
Okay.
Scroll up. It should be. Oh, I did run, right? The color is the URL is different.
Did I?
Can we see your server logs on this thing?
Did I actually have web set up here? I do have the web. Spring Boot. Wow, look at that. That's cool. Spring executing.
Yeah, I think it runs too fast, right? The test was executed while your server is still starting. I'm not very familiar with the Spring Boot full end-to-end test setup. I do have examples of it, but I can't comment on why it was running before in this instance.
I don't. Yeah, but that is weird. Why does this test get invoked before? I mean, it must have waited for the data. Like it ran before the database was even spun up. How bizarre. Couldn't get localhost customers.
What do you think if we put, for now, just sleep 10 seconds, just to see if our theory is correct and it's actually some race condition here?
Yeah, why would JUnit run the test before the hooks are done? That makes little sense to me. Okay, let's try this again.
Second might be just a little bit too little.
Oh, okay, 10.
Oh, nice underscore usage.
Let's see here. Yeah, it's just that makes it. I think it's a logging issue, not a timing. Although, yeah, actually, that's a good point. It did take, like, let's make it 100, so it should be like very obviously, you know, stalling. And if it doesn't stall, then we know there's something's not executing correctly.
Oh, so it's not printing. Well, did you register your endpoints at all? Shouldn't be printing them somewhere?
Did I even build one? There it is. Yeah, we got a controller endpoint, get mapping. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Like, this is all, let's see here. Okay. So clearly it's doing something. Why are the logs?
What we
Okay,
could
so
try to do is maybe run it as the application itself. Just run it and see if it's exposing anything.
you mean the HTTP endpoint? Yeah, sure. Okay.
Just like run it as an app, or maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure that's fine. It's. Oh, hey. Maybe not. What happened? Run Webtau application. Standard Commons logging discovery in action with Spring JCL. Why would that be the case? Okay, so let's trim down this. So we want web. Is it web?
But should put HTTP. Put it instead of web, put HTTP.
Okay.
Interesting. So you think it? It's perfectly possible that it might bring some nonsense.
Yeah, what is going on? Okay, let's see. Database. Okay.
Only one left. Oh no! All right, remove it. I'm not gonna cry.
Well, I am. It's gonna have to. It's not gonna compile.
We're gonna comment out just a couple lines.
This is scary. Okay, so get rid of that. Now load. Okay, now. Oh, we don't run it from there, right? We run it from the test container.
Oh.
So I'll close that out. Run it from here. Okay.
That looks right.
So now, and we saw when it worked in the test because I was able to get the SQL data from it earlier.
Yeah,
So
that's right. That's right. I forgot about that.
But let's try something different here. Let's try do REST template. Okay. Input dot entity host. I don't know if the server is actually up. Should be, but let's just be sure. Okay. And it gives me string.class re.getBody. Okay. Oh, that's the main method. That's not what I want. I want to run this. Put that up there. Okay. So here's where it gets interesting. Connection refused.
In a way, I'm relieved a little bit, but the jury is still out.
What's happening? Come on. Yo. Do not do that. Whatever that was, don't do that. Let's see. So okay, what do we have here? So let me see test. I don't get it. Why is this issue? Yo. Connection refused. Already served up port was 8080. And I said localhost 8080.
Is it the correct syntax for setting up port? Oh yeah, you use it in a no. Wait, what did you use in the browser when you tested it?
Just 8080.
Hmm.
Okay, hold on. Root test stand up HTTP server. Aha, web environment. And core. And actually, I can do that, but I can't get it from the static method. But
And don't do it in a static. Do it in before each.
yeah,
Yeah, let's do random put. Seems more correct.
okay, but why is it neat? Okay, so define port, server.port, and then the data is this. Okay, so that's working. So now we bring this. Let's see, what do we got? We got the Webtau stuff. Let's bring that back in. Although I think we might be stuck on dependencies at this point. Let's try that. Like I haven't even added the code. Let's just see if
That's a good point.
class path issues collide. Okay, happiness. Good. Okay, run again. Happiness, come on. Still good, no problems, nothing. The logging is all butchered, but that's okay. I think something with it, I think there's two things. I think there's a dependency on commons logging that's causing it to not log things, but that was masking the actual issue, which is that the web server wasn't there. So now I'll bet this works.
I'll have to explore what are those dependencies. But
Okay.
honestly, what you're doing right now is the first time when in the same app, there's both Webtau and HTTP. Usually it's like a black box test, not in the same. But yeah, look at the response.
Nice.
All neatly arranged for you.
I love it. I love this so much. Look at that. Status code equals 200. You've got amazing ASCII. That's very important when you're running your tests. You want to feel confident that you're in the right place, doing the right things at the right time. This ASCII. That's how you know. Okay, response, application JSON. Okay, good. So neat. Okay, great. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. We just did something great there. What else? What else? Like, that's cool.
So I can think of two things. One is adding actual assertion for it, and second is bring our database into the mix.
Well, let's do the assertion and then the database. How about that?
Yeah, let's start with assertion. You have a second parameter after your URL in HTTP GET. Whoa, wait, you can do that?
Oh no, not concat. Oh yeah. Equals. Yeah. And this. Okay, so
was there some also like a HTTP server problem? Yeah.
Okay, and then I want this to be that. Be happy, and then down here.
This still seems confusing.
Okay.
Wait, at the top it says localhost, but it's a port value, right? The line 23.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Thank you. So it's just that, right?
Should be like, yeah. Oh, interesting. I never. Well, new trick, new Java trick.
Go Java. It's gonna be big one day. You just watch. People are gonna love it. Let's just see if everything is still working though before we pat ourselves back. Okay, good. We did it.
Do you have any idea where the purple color came from? I wonder if it's a IntelliJ Dracula theme or not.
It's Dracula, I guess. I don't know. Let me try. These are the things I'm here to.
Oh, no, I was just trying to make a joke that I was heavily borrowing colors from JetBrains IDE. Whenever I was doing some HTTP web reporting, and I couldn't come up with the colors, like, hey, what JetBrains is using for properties and things.
Yeah. It's beautiful. Actually, it looks good no matter what.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to the. Oh, it's better. Thank you. Sorry, everybody on the stream that just got blinded. Yep. Sorry, that was that's awkward. All right, so we've got now our HTTP endpoint. Lead the way, man. Where are we going?
You go. HTTP GET has a bunch of overloads, and one of them is where the last parameter is the closure for validation. So write a function, the lambda expression for header and body. No new. Use the Java syntax. no by function. You literally open the parentheses and say header body and the arrow, and open your scope. Yeah. So this is our validation block. And it works, like HTTP GET has multiple variations where you can pass URLs, properties, body. And yeah, but in all of those overloaded variations, the last parameter, when it's present, is the validation block.
So what do you recommend we do?
Two choices. Maybe we can try with body.contain. I don't know, it should work. Oh, body shoot. So yeah, it's a Java version. So body shoot or body shoot, and then contain. Oh, you removed that static import, the one that will give you all the power of them all.
Good thing we have documentation.
Yeah, somewhere. Yeah, let's copy that line.
No.
Oh no, sorry. Yeah, it's because you're not dependent on everything. It's fine. Don't depend on everything. Go back and we'll change the Webtau DSL to Webtau core.
Oh wait, okay, hold on. I don't need the DB stuff yet, so we'll comment that out. But
yeah, let's go back and change this Webtau DSL to Webtau core. That will include core methods like tracing and all the matchers. Yeah. So now your body should contain, and we can put a map as a keyword, map, and open the ID. Yeah, ID in your quotes, comma 1, comma name in quotes, and maybe Sanji. Hopefully that works, because I'm not sure. So there were fixes in contain between some last release version and current, and I'm not sure which one. And if it wasn't released yet, then it will be released this weekend.
Sure. Okay, here we go. Moment we're all waiting for. At least I am. Oh, that's so cool. Oh, that's so cool. Okay.
Look at those highlights, man.
Look at that. Yeah, it's like, hey, you wanted this? It's right here. Look at that. Look at that. Magic. Oh, that's so cool. Okay. I dig that. I like that a lot. So I could actually just do a bunch of rows in here as well, right? Like.
So if you want a bunch of rows, you can do multiple body should contain.
Okay.
Multiple statements like this, or you could do body should contain table, but I wouldn't risk it right now before waiting for the current release.
Okay.
Let's go to maybe. I do know that the equality for the table works 100% because that's what we've been using a lot. But I don't want you to draw a table of 8 rows right now.
Well, I mean, I can do a table, couldn't I?
How about this? What if we use the DB module now to force our database state into certain, like 1 or 2 records?
Okay, let's do it. So
we're gonna use in one of your data preparation tests and like in your setup blocks, start typing what is your like before all, before each. Yeah, that is good.
Okay.
And try db dot for the database module, but we need to, did we import it?
I got a DB, so
Oh, that's db.
oh no, that's the
That seemed like, yeah. Yeah, that's good.
now DB dot.
db dot labeled. Oh, we need to. So instead of HTTP, db. Huh? Well, you didn't import the module. Maybe it's called database. I'm not sure. Wait, after Webtau database.
Okay.
Is it like this? Hopefully, yeah. Database dot labeled. I'll just give it a name like main.db or something.
Yeah.
And then dot from GDBC from data source. So now you need to inject data source somewhere.
You know what Spring is good at? Injecting things.
Yeah.
You better believe it. So, data source.
And just for the context and maybe some extra information, in black box tests, that's not how you do it. You can put in a config file the specific database GDBC URL if you control your environments. Like in case of when we're testing an application that deployed to Google Cloud, using the spanner DB as a data source, we were specifying it either at runtime command line parameters or in the config files that are specific per environment. All right, and so once we have this DB stuff, main DB, we can define it. So assign it to a variable at this point.
Okay.
Thanks, Ali. Yeah, main DB is good. I usually like expose it to the top level if I do it before all. But that should work. Yeah. No.
Oh, it's not final, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Sad.
And now it's up to you how you want to do it, whether it's in before block or inside the test itself. Using this main DB, you can acquire a handler for a specific table.
Okay, so that's that main DB dot handler. No.
Table. And this is just a shortcut. From this point, you can do all the queries on the things, or you can define those shortcuts. I like to define shortcuts so I can clearly see in my test which tables participate in the end-to-end orchestration.
Okay, so should I assign this to a variable? Is that the idea?
I usually do that. Like I create a customer capital one, but it's personal preferences. You don't need to follow them.
Yeah. Do I need that here before I do setup?
Doesn't matter. At that point, it's still lazily defined entity.
Okay, so now what?
We can do a very simple test. We can do customer table.clear and make sure that body is empty. Like body should equal, in your test, you say body should equal empty list.
Body should
equal, and then you type list. And like you were typing map before, you type list and open parentheses. That's it. So again, just should equal. Yeah. I put them usually on one-liners, but again, it's subjective personal preferences. Yeah, you're even like that. Something is amiss.
Well, that's bizarre. Saying HTTP response validator with return or HTTP response validator.
Oh, put the curly braces so it knows which one.
Here?
Yeah. Is it happy enough? Yeah. Don't ask me what's going on there.
Okay. Wait, so if I did like return, would that do anything?
Yeah, because once you do return, it's a different set of overloaded things that you can actually return value from the body to chain it in the next step.
Neat. Okay. So now we're assuming it should be empty.
Yeah.
And then let's just
the customer table insert. Oh, what's it? Oh, you want to run it? Got it. It's another good trick. Never thought of using it this way.
Okay, so it's fine, right?
Yeah.
And now what? Now I want to like insert some data.
Yeah, let's do customer table dot insert.
Oh,
And now it's up to you how you do it.
it's a little mini ORM. So map dot of ID one name.
So you can use list of map of, or you could also use those list and map shortcuts for that Webtau comes with. It doesn't matter which one.
Right. Okay, so now we got that one record. Now, what if I put this to be 2? Fail, right?
Well, yeah. But contain in your version will not be as chatty as contain is my current version. That one of the releases is to make it more specific. No, that's fine. You would still have enough context of seeing why the failure is.
Right. That's awesome. It worked. I mean, it worked because it failed. And now it's working because it's correct. Oh, that's super cool. Okay.
At this point we did what I already showed in the demo. What do you think? If we don't have any questions, what do you think about me showing the REPL?
Yeah, sure.
There seems like to be a long question. Do you mind?
Oh, this one. I was going to say, this is, I think, a Spring Boot one. So I was always asking myself a question. Could using the local host some port make any problems with performing tests? Is it okay? Even if not, is there a possibility to not omit writing localhost? When you run Spring Boot tests by default, you get a random port, and that way even if you have multiple tests that are running at the same time, they don't conflict with each other. And in theory, you could get around that with this. You can actually inject the local port. I just don't know how you get the local port injected before a static field. But it's fine. You can always do this before each instead. Like if I put this down here.
Yeah, it should work.
That, and then got rid of this, and then I just said at local port int port. Right now I'm not using a static thing anymore. So let's see, this is not correct or that. I don't need any of that. And then I don't need this. And the port is nope. Can I do private? I would like to do private, please. And there we go. This is a port. And then where's my HTTP endpoint here? I guess. Yeah, there you go. That should work. So let's try that out. It's a little annoying because you're doing the same thing twice, though. Or multiple times. You're setting the port as many times as you have requests. Let's see. Oh, why not? Could not resolve.
Oh, you still need that web environment, but instead of define port, put a random.
I think so. There we go. Okay, so that's what you should do. That's cleaner. It means that your test will survive no matter what ports are being used. It'll pick another one.
Josh, while you're there, can you put a Webtau annotation on top of your test and see if it actually generates your HTML report?
Oh, fancy. At the top. Okay. So try again.
Yeah.
Scared.
There is a possibility you might need to. Oh no, this is explicit annotations. Check if there is a path printed at the bottom somewhere.
A what?
Is there a path to HTML report is generated? You see that?
Wow. That's amazing.
Click on your customer test on the left.
Got some performance details. You've got the individual details about the requests.
And go back to the previously selected test.
Oh wow, look at all that stuff.
Go to your test. I still want to see you. Want to show you that.
Okay.
No, sorry. Go to the report tests tab.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm just so it's so pretty.
Oh no, yeah, that's links to Webtau. That's fine. Oh, you see that TestNG because if you go to pick a test like this and go to HTTP calls,
yeah,
and unpack those. Like don't click on the pluses, and actually click on your second one where you assert something good. Yeah, that's the stuff I was showing in the slides.
Okay, that's amazing.
Good.
Well done, my friend.
If we have a couple of minutes, I can show you the REPL thing to your viewers, and maybe
sure.
that.
Yes, but we just realized this should be all test implementation. Is that not true?
Oh, maybe that's why it was interjecting with, I don't know.
So that's, maybe just run the test one more time. That is phenomenal. And the port changed, so that's got the new one. Yeah. Okay, so where to now?
If you want to see a REPL, I can show you a bit faster, or if you want to try it yourself.
Yes, I do.
Okay, so then you downloaded Webtau. How did you download it? Basically, you have three choices. You can download Webtau binaries, which is Java jars and a shell script. You can use the, what's it called? The brew, or you can use the SDK man.
Brew. SDK man, let's do that.
So go to documentation installation step. I hope I have the step there. At the very top, installation a little bit down.
There it is.
And standalone Groovy runner, here's SDK install Webtau. Hopefully it's updated to the relatively, I don't know who actually using it. I don't have any stats, so might sometimes forget to. 2.1 is good. All right, so if you type Webtau space REPL, you're gonna get Webtau into a read eval print loop. No, Webtau space, like Webtau is a command line. Space, REPL. All right, so now we're in a Webtau shell, which means you have access to all the Webtau commands, including HTTP, DB, all of those. It's using Groovy, but doesn't really matter because it's very easily convertible. But what I want you to try is type something like browser.open, and then in parameters in the quotes, https google.com. Yeah. Yeah.
Here we go. Wow. I've got a browser.
Right. So now in 20 seconds, you are already Selenium master. But Webtau uses Selenium under the hood. It does do a lot of higher level stuff. One of the examples, you can try $, open parentheses, and in quotes type A as a CSS selector for links and press enter. And if you guys saw it, viewers, then there was a links were blinking and it gives you the context. So now if you say .get and in quotes type something like about or store, like one of those texts, maybe capital A. And just make sure that that specific one is blinking. So that's good. .click.
Okay, .click.
And so what you're doing here is almost like solving this end-to-end testing problem that multiple people experience. Is you write the end-to-end test, and every time is like painting this fence. The further you on your test, the longer you need to go back to the start of the fence, start everything over, go through it, it shuts down, and it's like, oh my God, I need to add a few more steps. REPL mode lets you be in the context of your currently developing tests.
Right.
For example, you can have your server running, do something with it, and then go back to REPL, maybe do stuff more in REPL, collect all those small snippets, bits and pieces, whether it's HTTP calls, CLI runs, WebSocket validation, so stuff like that. That's how I build that's how I start most of my end-to-end test. I go into REPL mode and it's like, hey, let me hit a few endpoints. You can actually hit your customers from here, right? Like http.get. Oh, thanks, Sanjay. Like if you do http.get your, like customers, localhost, whatever you're running on it. I don't think you have your app running at the moment.
Ooh, I failed. Let's see here. Test, and this pairs very nicely with the new test container support and integrations in Spring Boot 3.1.
Exactly. And now here, what you can do is, let's do it. Type body.name. No, not there. Just the new, completely new line. Erase everything. Body.name. Yep. So here you can try your assertions without rerunning your endpoints. You can play with body. You can maybe like body should equal, or body name should contain. You should put dot after name. No, you don't need parentheses. This is Groovy now. And you don't even need equal. You can just type equal sign.
Oh.
And then, some value. Oh, what just happened? Why was blinking? But you see you have an assertion failure, and you can play with your assertions in the context of your last HTTP response. You can play with your assertions in the context of currently open page without restarting everything from scratch.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Really good stuff. And it seems to really work nicely with Spring, so that makes me happy. I appreciate you taking the time to kind of introduce us all to all this stuff. I think people liked it as well. People, except for that one guy, when I turned on the bright mode, he was upset for a minute. But otherwise, thank you very much. This is great. I'm going to put this code, the sample code, such as it is, on GitHub, always under Coffee Software Show. Thank you for the time. I know you're a busy guy and it's late in the day for you already. Are you on the internet? And do you want to be found? And if so, where can people find you?
Oh, yeah, I'm on the internet. I wish more people find me and read some of my random posts. It's at M. So if you take my first letter M from my name M, and then Golubyev as my last name, it's all one word, M Golubyev, and that will be a Twitter handler.
Oh, okay. You mean X? How dare you? I'm just kidding. Golubyev.
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 EV.
EV?
EE, like East.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, there we are. The one and only. Thanks for your time. Pretty cool.
I feel like, I feel like it was a good use of time, and thanks for finally landing in your motherland.
So it's good to be home, and it's even greater to talk to you. Yeah, thank you for this. I think people really are going to enjoy this when they find it. It just seems to make it a lot more. I mean, testing is an iterative process. You said it the other day. This kind of reminds me of
notebooks.
Notebooks, yeah, totally. The Python and now Kotlin communities have this religion around, like, they get it. They understand what it is to like iteratively test things, and this is exactly
talking about Kotlin. If you scroll a little bit down, one of the pinned posts. Look at this small video. This is actually me doing what you were just doing in a Kotlin notebook.
Oh my goodness. That's so cool.
Yeah, do check it out. There was some integration with Kotlin available, and people were helping me from Jitterbrain's team. I don't know if I should name them or not, but just in case, I'm not going to do it now. But they're all smart people there helping me figure out how to do a nice integration. And Webtau is now one of the libraries you can do Kotlin-specific Webtau, and it's all going to load all the libraries inside your Kotlin notebook.
Amazing. Well done. Good stuff for people that care about software. Look, software testing is trending. Now, that might be just the algorithm feeding me what I want to see, but people care, and I care, and this has been great. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. This was fun.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.